Hey Ellen! Alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and the feelings involved, another important day, relationships, feelings, the death, and the lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout, okay? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through in your current life. And I'll try to help however I can, okay? So just keep in mind there are a couple of ways to make connections. One way, it's direct and opposite. One way is direct, so direct means whatever comes through here you can directly correlate with as, you know, as connecting with or resonating with. The other way is opposite, which means sometimes our soul experiences one thing in one life, so it comes back to experience something completely different, right? So an example I like to use is the idea that, like, if we get someone who dies of smoking, then they come back a lot of times where they just cannot stand the smell of smoke or being around smoke or anything like that. So that's like an opposite connection. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so first we're going to start here where we're going, and this is the Americas card, so that can be North, Central, or South America. And what I feel like is coming through here, I feel like we're looking at what you consider the time is coming in, like the period of time. It feels like we're looking at, I'm getting a lot of the beginning of the 20th century, so the early 1900s, and lately I don't know why, but that's what I'm getting a lot of, and that's what it feels like here. And it feels like we're going somewhere that is linked to Europe, or linked to specifically, I want to say Spain or Portugal, and we're going to South America. So the link, I feel like we're going to be seeing the link come up a little bit more. Hold on. Because a lot of times we see people who travel, like as children, overseas with their parents kind of thing. Other times it's, I don't think that this is it. I think this is either a family lineage, like almost like a business that is on both, that's in both continents. Almost like where you are here is starting like the South American chapter of the business that you own, and I'm just, not you, but it's almost like your family. So there's something about family lineage, family business, it feels like. What's not coming through yet is the gender aspect, which is interesting, because sometimes I'll get, you know, very quickly whether we're looking at a male or female energy, but it's almost like that's not really coming through, and I feel like maybe that's not even important at all, otherwise it would come through. So okay, so we're looking here. I'm trying to figure out where in South America, because this place is like the hub of sophisticated civilization, almost like you know what, it feels almost, hold on, okay, it feels like if we were to go to Cuba, the essence of when you think of Cuba, like, you know how every country has like a feel to it? And so what they're doing is, what they do is utilize the library in my mind in order to give me the most accurate, I guess, what's it called? The most accurate imagery or whatever that I can get to. So let's say I don't know exactly what country this is. I might not have a feel for it. But if we were to put it alongside anything, it'd feel like what I consider to be like a Cuban kind of sophisticated, like, come on. Something about the people being like suave and well-dressed and intelligent, and like a gathering of elite, sophisticated people. And I want to say this can almost be what's coming through more than anything is, if anywhere, Argentina for some reason is coming through. So let's just unfold this a little bit. So connections, right? So how can you be connecting to this? For example, would be simply, have you ever felt connected, or do you resonate with the idea of Argentina, Cuba, and then the idea of Spain or Portugal? I usually don't get this many, but these places how you want to feel connected is, one, have you ever wanted to go to vacation there? Have you ever just been pulled there? Are you interested in the music, the language, the food, the essence, the environment, the color scheme of the place? Maybe you've seen movies with these places and it pulled at you. So what you're looking for is like an emotional trigger or a resonance with the place, that it could feel familiar, comfortable, intriguing, exciting, alluring, that kind of thing. And then the idea of the family business, there's this idea of keeping it in the family. So if that is important to you, the idea or theme of keeping it in the family, if you are someone that maybe you grew up when you were expected to join the family business or do what your parents said, if you grew up in that kind of family where it was like a patriarchal kind of family and you were expected to do things like either get a certain kind of education, be married by a certain age, expected to have kids, just like whatever it was, where your family, if you look back, if you haven't until now, look back and realize that there were expectations placed on the role that you would play as you grew up. And there's a lot of people that, this affects, but that would be a connection. Now, the opposite connection would be if your soul decided to come back in this life and be very independent, and maybe even in your, when you were younger as a kid, or maybe it's still your gig now, like a rebellious nature, doing something like against the grain or outside of the box, almost like knowing what people expect of you and not being what people expect of you, almost like maybe you look a certain way, and people are surprised when your personality or your values or beliefs don't align with maybe how you present yourself to the world, if that makes sense. Let's see. Also, the idea that the gender is not, it's still not like just coming through, like it's a mixture here. So that can indicate, one, if you are very aware that you are balanced between your masculine and feminine energies, or two, if you don't like the idea of the identification that comes with your gender, if that has been a bother to you at all. Or it can even be the kind of thing where you are very like all gung-ho for when people want to be represented by different terms, whether it's she, he, they, those kinds of things. If you're like, yes, you do you and you identify with yourself. So basically we're looking at a theme of identity. Is that, how does identity play into your life? What have you done that puts yourself into a role? And it's like the role that you assume in your daily life, is that a role that you created for yourself, or is that a role that you've allowed others around you as you've grown up to create for you that you've maintained? So it's almost like the message would be to make sure to just check in with yourself about certain traits or characteristics that you may display that you feel might not be authentic or aligned with your inner truth, and yet you do it to either keep the peace, be a people pleaser, make people calm, or make them comfortable, when you feel like your true expression might not be taken as easily, if that makes sense. So this is just a call to evaluate where you are constricting yourself or holding yourself back in your authentic expression, and make sure that you are allowing yourself some outlet of expressing yourself in some authentic way, in a way that allows you to feel free to express yourself in whatever way that can't be misinterpreted, or that you don't care is misinterpreted because you're the one expressing yourself, and it's not, and no one, what do they say? No one's, what is it? People's opinion of you is none of your business. That's what they say. And that's basically to give you a peace of mind. So make sure that you, if you don't have one already, make sure that you at least are open to finding an outlet where you can express yourself without giving a hoot about hearing what others' opinions are about it. It's kind of like art is in the eye of the beholder. So you might paint something and other people might not like it because, you know, it's all relative, but you love it because you painted it and you don't care what they think because it's an accomplishment to you and it's your expression. You know, it's almost like not giving a care about other people's interpretation of you. That's what it is. That's what it comes down to. And if this is something you struggle with, this would be a message for you to focus on it this year, on letting go when you feel any thoughts come up in your mind about feeling like stressed out or noticing that you're caring about what others might think of what you're doing or saying, or maybe you've heard of what others think or do, whatever. And if you find yourself in your thoughts giving that any weight to opinions outside of yourself, these need to be more like opportunities this year where you notice it, you're thinking it, you're feeling it, whatever, and you catch it and you throw it away. Because it's not your thought, it's not how you feel about yourself. Anytime you feel other people kind of infecting your inner world, that's when you need to stop and do something about it and not allow it to go on. So the quicker you can catch those thoughts, the better. And I would say what's helpful too is meditation, because that's where you learn to observe your thoughts and let them go. Observe the thoughts and let them go. And then the ideas coming through, to give you almost like a mantra of, I am not my thoughts. Because what this will do will disallow the thoughts that you might be picking up from others around you to be bricks in the wall that build your inner world. And you don't want that. You want to form your own bricks, basically, and build your own walls made out of your own resources and your own materials, not those around you. So if this resonates with you, by the way, whatever I say, it has to resonate with you. What doesn't resonate, tuck in the back of your mind to use for later, because sometimes things come up in weeks, months, year down the road kind of thing. But if it resonates with you, this would be an excellent practice to begin doing this year, immediately start, so that you can, and you'll see over time as you do this, if this resonates with you, that you will feel much clarity within yourself. You will feel more trusting of your judgment within yourself, and you will hear your intuition a lot stronger. It's almost like you're clearing a pathway when you do that. A pathway that's filled with thoughts from others and around you and outside of you, and you clear that path for your own, just your own walk. And then what was the idea too that came through? I forget. Okay, if it's meant to be, it'll come back. How to do with clearing? Oh, yes. I do want to mention that as we're speaking about this, what keeps popping up is the idea of empaths. So I don't know if you've heard the term empath, or, you know, probably, I don't know, but if not, look it up. And people who soak up other people's feelings and thoughts around them, usually these people end up being people pleasers, and because they can really feel the energy around them, almost like reading a room, being able to like step in a room and you feel anxious suddenly because there's an anxious air in the room, or someone who's in the room is anxious, you know, that kind of thing. If you find that you soak up other people's thoughts and feelings that easily, then it's likely you're an empath. And it's just a label, you know, it's not like there's so many empaths. It's just that it's helpful to have a label sometimes so you understand what you're getting into, or what to research. But you can, through your mind, the power of your mind, you can protect yourself from that, and you can shield yourself from soaking up all the gook from everyone around you. Okay? So just something to look into. All right, so let's go ahead and keep making connections where you can with this. I feel like there's more to do with that business that's going to come through. Okay, so yeah, we're going to do with what you do with the majority of your time here. So the majority of your time here. Okay, now what's coming through is it feels like we are looking at a female aspect now. So now the female aspect is coming through, but there's something about the female that has a very, again, it's like a masculine energy about the female. And this is coming through too, because there's this a message of being in tune with all of who you are, even if you feel like some parts of you don't align with other parts of you. Everything goes together. If it's part of you and it's within you, it's meant to be there. If this is, you know, I'm talking about your character, your trait, you know, what you like, what you dislike, things like that. Like, so for here, what it does feel like is we're looking at someone who's very, I want to say very approachable and appealing on the outside, and then yeah, it's like what I mentioned before about looking a certain way and then people being surprised by what's inside there. And so it basically it feels like this aspect looks very innocent and very sweet. And there's something about this energy where they are viciously strategic. And that's not bad. It's just, and I've never had it come through that way, but it's almost like you would never expect the sharp mind behind this face. You would never expect it. And so what she did with the majority of her time, this card is the con card. So this comes up when we get con artists or people who are also, you know, living a lie, or there's different ways that this card can come through. But I feel like based on the environment, again, it felt like very elite, sophisticated people. And I feel like you do work for the family. This family that you are with feels like it's either one, they took you under their wing and raised you, or two, it's just being part of this very elite family and you having no choice but to be a part of it. But it also feels like there's something about you that likes it because you're so useful to them. And there's something about getting the, what's it called? Getting the approval of the family, gaining their approval or having their approval that is addicting. So a connection you could be making, for example, would be if you have experience coming into this life with a family where you sought their approval, or maybe still are seeking their approval. Maybe you notice yourself, again, holding yourself back, making yourself smaller, not expressing yourself in order to maintain or get approval. It doesn't have to be family, but likely would be. Otherwise, it would be if you notice this with your friends or people you surround yourself with. Now, this could be the opposite too, where you came back and you're like, screw that, I'm independent, I do what I want, I don't care what you think, da da da, like that kind of thing. So just see where that fits in with you as far as the approval thing, because that, I feel like that links into what we were talking about keeping others' thoughts outside of you. It's also like the need for others' approval outside of you, needing, making sure that you are approving of yourself. And it's just, all that matters is what you think of yourself, your actions, your characteristic. Like, it's all that matters is what you think of yourself. Again, it's the opinion of others is none of your business. The opinion of others of how they think of you is none of your business. That's right. It's just how they treat you is your business. But what they think of you, none of your business. Who cares? It's kind of like wasteful energy to even think about that. But anyway, so how the approval is that it's like, it feels like if I were to give you a title for the job that you have, it would be called like the listener. And it feels like what you do essentially for your family is because basically everyone who meets you thinks you're just this like sweet, innocent child girl who is under her family's wing and just like kind of innocent. Dare I say even like dumb. Like, honestly, like the look, it's almost like we're looking at someone where you look at them and you're like, oh, what a pretty little kind of ditzy thing. Like that kind of thing. But she's so observant and sharp-minded, and I mean, and she could be like very quick-witted, but she doesn't let it show because that's the whole point, is there's a ruse going on. She is getting information for her family, and there's something about being with a lot of people all the time, almost like there's constantly either meetings, or if the family is holding dinners, or every holiday, like they're always hosting parties of elite people. And her job is to go around and just kind of charm people and get along with people. And that's what it is. She's a charmer. Like, it's like, oh, what a sweet little, pretty little, you know, like that kind of thing. She looks younger than she is. Kind of has like, it's like a beautiful, like, just like a beautiful little doll face is what it is. It's almost like, I want to say that people would even call her Dollface. If she had a nickname, they'd say Dollface. That kind of thing. And no one knows how the information gets back to we'll say the family. This does feel kind of a bit like a mob, like the mob family or the mafia. Like there is something about this where there's a lot of money. It's very elite. It's sophisticated. There's something under the table about it. Almost like the business they present to the world, there's a lot going on behind it, kind of thing, behind closed doors. And anyway, so your job is to listen and to report back. So any connections you can make to this, for example, would be if you are a listener, if you are someone that doesn't speak up, you might even have trouble speaking up or expressing yourself in certain ways because of this life as the listener. It's almost like it's not just getting their approval, it's also survival, because this feels like a very cutthroat environment and cutthroat family where the affections that they'll show you is very calculated. Like, yeah, they know how to hug you and make you feel good, but like that's because they know, like they're calculating how to hug you for 10 seconds or like it's very cutthroat. So it's a weird thing because it's almost like there's no trust, but there's like a fondness for usefulness. So in your current life, if you find that you need to be useful, if that is a big thing for you in your relationships, your friendships, to feel valued, that you need to be useful to people, this is where it would come from. And if that's the case, if you find yourself kind of bending over backwards, again, people pleaser in that sense, or being of use, or, you know, maybe you're the one that volunteers first to go with anything. Like if you're at a party and you hear someone needs paper towel and you'll be like, oh, I'll grab it. Like that kind of thing. If you're quick to volunteer to help people or be useful, it would come from here. But if that was the case, if that's the case, there would be a message in this for you to cut back like 50%. Like learn to just be there and be in a moment and not feel like you have to do anything to earn it, if that makes sense. So if that's the case, this would be a life where you learn a lesson in not needing to prove or earn love or appreciation from others around you. And be aware too that if you feel like if this does resonate with you, please be aware if you find that you feel that people want this from you because you are projecting it or because you have set the example that they now expect you to be that way. So if this is who you, if this resonates with you, the message really is you get to determine, you set the standards for how people treat you and what they expect from you, okay? So it's kind of like there's this thing that's coming up that I saw online, and it was a quick video where they're at an office and it goes, and the boss is there and the boss goes, who should I give this extra load of work to today? Looks over to one employee and she's on the phone and she's relaxing and she's laughing and she has no mind and she's just doing what she wants to do. And then looks to the other employee over here and she's like at the computer, stack of paper by her side, working diligently, kind of like that Mickey Mouse mousy kind of look, you know, that kind of thing. And he's like, okay, and dumps the extra work with the worker who's already working, because that worker set the expectation that I'm here, I've got all the time, this is what I'm doing, I'm at your disposal, versus the other employee who is like, I'm taking time for me, I expect that you're going to respect that I'm taking time for me. Does that make sense? That little example? So it's basically like, it's almost like, just be aware that you are the one that dictates what others expect of you by the standards that you set of how you are to be treated. You get to set that. And people might not respect that, at least at first. If you feel like it's time that you need to set new standards, people might not respect that because they expect you to be the people pleaser. They expect you to be the person that volunteers to grab something. But it's like, start to notice this. Notice if people kind of look at you, you know, notice if they're like, well, aren't you going to get it? Why aren't you getting it? And you'll be like, I'm comfortable sitting here. I'm sitting, I'm relaxing. It's not even my party. Like, why should I grab the paper towel? Go get it. You know what I mean? Like, it's basically, this feels like it's time to demand a new standard of respect for yourself and not to let people off the hook who mistreat you either by overtly how they treat you or by what they lack, what they're holding back from you. Like if they're not giving you the standard of love that you want, you don't have to minimize yourself or accept it. You know what I mean? Like you have the power and control of the quality of your life and the quality of people you surround yourself with, again, by how you set your standards and maintaining and sticking to those standards, and trusting that once you raise your standards, the right people and the right environments they will come to you. It will happen that way. It's just how it's done. It's a law of attraction. So anyway, also, we do want to address this kind of underhandedness of a life, and understanding that she probably wouldn't have been this way if she wasn't part of that family. So it's very likely that this came back, you in your current life reincarnated to kind of have an opposite. You might even be someone who's overtly truthful, very honest, you might just despise lying. That might be the one quality that you can't stand in a partner or a friendship or whatever. If there's a lie, that could be like the thing that ends it. Sneakiness. You know, how do you feel about sneakiness? That might be you might be very on edge. You might be paranoid. If you find that you have a paranoid kind of on edge thing come up when you are when your intuition is like sensing that someone's lying or someone is being sneaky or not giving the full truth kind of thing, if you notice that, pay attention. It's probably true because you were that person. So you have all of the kind of like sensors for it because you were it. So it's almost like if you're able to, you might even wonder, how do I know? Like, how am I a human lie detector? That's what you might ask yourself in your current life. You might be like, wow, I'm really good at detecting when people are lying or whatever. It might seem very obvious to you even, and other people can't tell. It would be because you were that person. Like, you were putting off a facade in order to get information without giving yourself away kind of thing. Now, this can also mean that what might intrigue you, maybe when you were considering like careers growing up, you might have even like thought the idea of like being an agent in the CIA or something like that would be kind of cool. So if that ever crossed your mind as like a neat kind of career idea, it would just match up with this kind of, that's what essentially this is. It'd be like the equivalent to today's person would be a CIA agent who, you know, can manipulate information out of an informant, or what do you call it? Like the person they want to get the information from, if that makes sense. So let's see, any more connections with the con card? Oh, this can also speak to how you feel about like gatherings. You might, this is gonna be totally random, but what's coming through is the idea that these gatherings were always so like beautiful and sophisticated and like grand, or like the design comes through. It's like this aspect of you loved the design of like a ballroom setting, kind of like these were grand parties, and they were elegant and they were tasteful. And so if you find that in your current life you have that kind of taste, where you like elegance, and maybe you have really good taste, and the idea of hosting a beautiful party, maybe you love hosting parties, maybe you love going to parties, but not like, you know, not like party, but like beautiful dinner, elegant dinner party things, you know, like that kind of thing. Banquets, we could say, like a banquet or a gala, like that. Or it can even be the kind of thing, like maybe, you know, whether you host it or not, it's also like, do you like watching like the galas on TV, or like the almost like I want to say the award ceremonies, how everyone's so dressed up in beautiful designs? Do you like fashion design? Do you like interior design? Design, that's what's coming through. So actually that's coming through so much that I do want to say that if you are looking for a new hobby or something to like look into, even as like a second career, you might want to just test your hand at the idea of interior design, event planning, or fashion design if you have any background in that. But this also goes to event planning. And I feel like if you just dabble in that and see if it clicks with you, that might be something that's very, not just like lucrative, but would be very good for you creatively. Sorry, they are out there today. If you hear that, the trucks are here. But yeah, so Just a thought in case you're like, what do I do? You know, I'm bored lately and I want to look into something, maybe even start my own business, I would say look at that if it resonates with you. You know what I mean? And if not, that's totally fine too. But keep making connections where you can with the con card and all of that. And we're going to go ahead and move to the first important day. Now, the first important day, what we're getting here, this card is the graduation card. And that's not always academic. That can be a graduation in mentality, emotionality, physicality. It could be a lot. And then this is the family card for relationships. And the feeling to go along with it is content. So what's really interesting what's coming through is the idea that even though this is a family, there is the idea of climbing the ladder in this family. It, again, feels very Mafia-like, which, by the way, if you connect with that on any level, the idea of like Mafia or the mob, even in weird random ways, like if you liked the show The Sopranos, if you really vibed with that kind of show, or like Mafia shows, family, you know, family dynamic kind of thing in that way, that would be a kind of connection as well. But that's what we're dealing with here. So the graduation feels like you are graduating up in the family as far as your level like of how important you are to them. And I know that sounds really sucky, but that's how it is here. And so in your current life, it's very possible that you chose to come back where you make sure that whatever family you create, they feel loved and appreciated for who they are versus what they can do for you or how well they perform. And that would be an opposite connection, obviously, but it would be because that's all that mattered here was basically how well you performed for your family. And fortunately for you, you did very, like, you knew how to play the game. You were not like, I would definitely not say you're the black sheep of this family, which in your current life, if you came back as the black sheep, that would make a lot of sense as the opposite. But also if you came back in your family and you were, I guess we can just go ahead and say the golden child, that would make sense too, because you knew how to play the role well. It just could be that you came back into a family if you were like, you know, treated equally or loved very well in this life just for who you were. It could be that that's just another experience your soul needed as part of a family versus this part of the family where you were treated very well, but it's because you were useful versus just because you were family. Okay, so the family card comes in, moving along, content. Okay, yeah, so what's happening basically, your life here feels like a corporate job where you are climbing the ladder and it feels like you are doing a good job. And I'm just trying to see what's going on this particular day because it's a day of like definite recognition where I want to say there is something about you being gifted a chunk of inheritance early, not because anyone died, but almost like, all right, you've been serving us so well for the past 30 years, 25 years. Yeah, it's like, and it is like a notable birthday, so I do want to say it's like 25 for some reason, that here you get your own part of the business, or you are a partner, or you can open your own storefront, whatever it might be, here, or here's a piece of property that we own. Like, yeah, okay. So the more we're talking, it feels like this family owns a lot of property, and you are definitely bestowed a piece of property at the very least. And that's what the graduation day is here. So we're looking, because it's almost like with that property comes a sense of freedom, even though that's false. It still gives you a feeling of maturity and like being an adult in ways that you hadn't before. Because you're like, oh, I finally got the coveted mansion in Seville, like, you know what I mean? Like, so you get a prominent piece of property to do what you will, and it's also linked with the family thing, so it's also like getting money. It's almost like you get an early inheritance of some kind. It could be that like a grandfather died and then the inheritance is coming through the family and reaches you, but it doesn't feel like your parents died or anything. It still feels like the family is very much intact. So okay, so what's coming through here is a message. It's almost like the idea in this is patience and diligence and maintaining faith and having faith in the path you choose and being diligent with it. Okay, what does that mean? So it's like, let's say you wanted to start a new business recently. Like, let's say it just like, you're just like, I love taking photos and I want to open a photography studio, and I know it's the right thing. It feels so good. I always wanted it, right? Okay. So you open the studio, and the whole, we'll say for a year, it's like barely getting by. Like, you're barely trickling in any customers, and you start to lose faith and you're doubting yourself. This would be a message to keep your eye on your, like, maintain your vision. Don't give up. Be patient. Don't underestimate time. Time, it's like, you will get, like, what the vision you want for yourself, the vision you hold, the vision you can see for a future or a reality that you want can be. But time needs to be viewed as your friend and not your enemy. And it feels like what's coming through with that is, in order to do that, because it's hard for a lot of people to do that, in order to do that, you need to find, in the present moment, you need to find enjoyment in the process that leads up to what you eventually want to come to fruition. If you become a master at finding joy and intrigue or excitement or a love of the process of the present moment, that is where you win. That's where you win. When you're able to do that, you know you're on your way. Because the future vision you have, it's already there. Like, you've envisioned it, you visualized, it's there. What you want is there. Now you have to focus on the present moment and trust that your decisions are going to, your choices, your decisions, and living presently in the moment in this way is going to lead you down the path that is meant for you and for your best interest, if that makes sense. But this also comes with the other stuff we were talking about. All this stuff we were talking about here, these are all like formulas to help you basically manifest the best version of yourself for the best life that you can have. And this is how it's done. So it's interesting because this aspect of you, in being the character she is and doing the job she's doing, she has to be present. She can't think of how the family's going to take the information, like the stuff that she hears, all the information she's gathering. She's not thinking about the reaction of the family or what it implies to the family or what it means or implies to the people involved in the information. You know what I mean? Like, she is focused on the present moment, listening and honing in on what is necessary for the present moment, because if she was not present, she would not be able to retain the information in the way that she does. So she's a master at being in the present moment, because she also has to elicit the information from them, which means she has to be present in the conversation with that person enough that she earns their trust or gains their trust in such a way that they would open up, feel comfortable enough to open up about this information. So this person is a master at being present, and I feel like that is something that you can take, because once you know about your other lives, when you're aware of them, you understand that it's all part of who you are anyway. Just because she was a master present moment, we'll say a present moment master, doesn't mean that ends in this life. That means it's a part of you today. And that means that if you are very good at being in the present moment, it's because it's who you are. And if you feel like you're not, you're wrong, because you can tap into this energy and become a present moment master. And I kind of want to say that's like, you make that your mantra. I am a present moment master. I am a present moment master. Like, make that your affirmation. There's something about that that is important. So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can when it comes to this. And it's also telling me here that when you do that, when you truly give yourself over to being in the present moment without worrying about the future or being anxious about the future or worrying about the past or whatever, when you are in the present moment, that is what you need to graduate emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. That is what will help you level up. That is what's going to help with your expansion of your consciousness and elevate and get you aligned. Everything you want is in the present moment. So just maybe consider doing some mindful present moment practices to get you in that groove. Or maybe you're just like awesome at it already, but either way, it's important. So keep making connections where you can with that. And yeah, we're gonna go to the next important day. Okay, so this is the Enlightenment card. I really like this card. This usually means like it's an aha moment. You're having like a soul leveling up day kind of thing. Do you hear that crow in the background? There is some crow out there crowing. The relationship card is the Child card. And this is the Gratitude card. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, so what's happening here is this is years later and it feels like you are married and you are having the child. So it feels like this, and that's not always the case. When we see the Child card, it can be like, we've had people who are like helping as a midwife, or their best friend is having a kid or whatever. But here, this is you having a kid, and the big thing about this is you have a huge aha moment in that you feel so much love for the child that you almost, I want to say, you make a vow that you will never let this kid feel like they have to earn your love. And it's like almost like it sinks into you how effed up this whole family thing is, really. Like, because it was fun in games for a long time. Like, you were fine. Like, this is how you were raised. It's very competitive. You were raised to compete. Compete for love. Conditional love. That's how you were raised. So to you, it was a game for a long, long time, and you liked it because you played it so well. So then this happens, and it hits you because then you start to think of those instances and apply it to your, I want to say, daughter. And you start thinking like how it would feel for her to have to do that, and what it would take for you to make her feel like she would have to earn the love. Because once you give, it's like almost like you didn't love her until you held her. That's what it feels like. Like being pregnant, whatever, like no. But once you held her, there was something that clicked, shifted, changed, whatever. And the love was so overwhelming and so unconditional. And right now I'm feeling very emotional. It's so unconditional that you're like, how could anyone feeling this way about their child make them feel like they need to do anything to earn it? It's like a huge, like, kapow in the face, like huge slap in the face, but also brought out a very protectiveness in this aspect of you. And the gratitude comes in because it's the realization that you're grateful for. It's people, a lot of people don't realize that manifesting, it's about the emotion you feel. So it's not about the thing, it's about the emotion that thing you want gives you, whether it's security or joy or bliss or unconditional love, whatever. So the gratitude is because you are understanding unconditional love for like the first time in your life, and there's nothing like it. It just happens to be that you're the one that's giving it versus receiving it. And I think that's actually the kicker, is that you're realizing that you've never received it, and yet here you are overflowing with it, and you didn't realize you didn't receive it until you were the one capable of giving it. So it's a very precious, beautiful moment here, and this is where your soul just levels up and you're changed. And it's a lucky thing too, because now that you're a mother, it feels like your family is not requiring your services anymore. It also feels like the property you received and the money you received is more than enough to make you happy living your life. And it's not like you're separate from your family, but it is like you're out of the family business now, so to speak, because you have your own family. So it's a very kind of like a lucky break. Yeah, it's a lot of big emotion here. So in your current life, you could have chosen to come in and make sure that you create a family where there is unconditional love, or create a family where you would be teaching unconditional love or being shown often that you have unconditional love. And that can be even the kind of thing where in your, like if you have kids, it's like, have you been tested a lot to show, like, you know what I mean? Like, has your love been tested? Like, have you been like brought to the brink emotionally where you're just like, this child, but you have to love your child because it's just who you are. Like, you just, that's where the unconditional love comes in, like that kind of thing. So we're looking here really at a theme of unconditional love, the love for child, the love between parent and child, conditional versus unconditional. This can also be brought up just as a little reminder in case you are going through something with children, that to always fall back into unconditional love because they will always need you for that. And it doesn't mean you don't get to, like, you know, throw some judgments out there and put your foot down. And it doesn't mean, unconditional love does not mean enabling harmful behavior in someone. It just means that you'll love them no matter what choices they make. And that doesn't always mean even like being okay, being in communication with them. That's not what it means. It just means loving them by accepting them for who they are, where they are, and not holding your love over them as a way to get them to change their behavior or who they are. That, I feel like that's what wanted to come out. So just keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can when it comes to this concept. I mean, this can even be something where it's like, when you had a kid, things shifted drastically in your mentality, emotionality in ways you never even anticipated despite having heard of it. That kind of thing right here, which would be a direct connection. So keep making connections where you can there. We're going to go to the death card. This death card is the natural death. It is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Nothing else is coming through. It feels like you die in your sleep as an old woman. It feels like you have grandkids. It feels like life was, the rest of the life was good, solid, good. It does feel like there was separation between you and the family in a sense where they might not have known it, but you separated emotionally from them. Like, you might not have ever expressed it to them or put your foot down when they asked you, you know, that kind of thing. But it feels like you just went through the motions with them, kind of just shut them up and not get them in your business because you knew how they worked, because you're very, very freaking smart. And but it felt like when you weren't involved with them at all, or when they weren't bothering you, you just kept to your own little family, and you just really, and it feels like you really just enjoyed raising your kids and enjoying your own little family here, and kind of like making sure the next generation was loved, if that makes sense. Kind of like breaking a generational curse from your family in a weird way, like breaking that like conditional love crap. Which in your current life, you might find that that's what you are doing. Who knows? So, natural death, easy peasy, and we're gonna go to the lesson. So this lesson is the let go card. What I feel like is coming through about the let go card is, what do I want to say about it? It's about, this comes back to what we were first talking about the identity. And I feel like strongly this is about letting go of an identity that any identity of yourself that you have not personally given the stamp of approval. The identity that you find you have formed based on what others expected of you. It's like, I just feel like this is time to, they're showing me this thing that's very methodical, like methodically going through different personality aspects of yourself, your triggers, what makes you tick, why you react certain ways to certain things, all that kind of stuff, is to start doing the work of going through yourself methodically and recognizing where it does not feel authentic and where you are holding back from feeling authentic or allowing yourself authentic expression. And I feel like the parts of you that you no longer align with because they don't feel authentic, it's time to let go of them. And when you are true to yourself and you're able to do this for yourself, yes, it may affect relationships that you have with other people. But if being true to yourself and loving yourself in this way makes other people not want to be encouraging or there for you or stick around, then that is telling you that those people are not in alignment with your vibration and may be toxic to your growth. So you just want to consider all of this, because a lot of people have to cut ties with a lot of people sometimes in order to grow and align and be their best version and be authentic and real with who they are, that kind of thing. So just a card of letting go of what no longer serve you. Can't speak. Letting go of what no longer serves you or what doesn't serve you. There. And that, again, that could be within yourself or around you. Okay. So keep making connections where you can with the Let Go card. And also, I didn't mention, when I did mention the time period, like that 19th century, 1900s, the 20th century cusp kind of thing, that can just simply be like, you might have really enjoyed like learning about that historical time in school. Or maybe that's a time period where if you go look through photographs, especially of, I want to say, honestly, I would love for you to go and Google like the hub of Argentina. Like, I really feel like it's Argentina, or it could be Colombia. Honestly, it could be Colombia. Are they near each other? Go see if Argentina and Colombia are near each other, because it might be Colombia if it's right next to it or something like that, because it's like right there. But go Google where there are like hubs. You might even want to look up, you might want to Google Mafia families, like, not Mafia, but like Mafia type families in Argentina or Colombia, or Cuba. I know we mentioned Cuba, but I don't know if it's more like, it feels like we're looking at Argentina, Colombia. But go look up like families. That might actually, you never know, that could actually give you the family we're talking about if you Google it, because it doesn't feel like they're erased from history. It feels like they're well known. It feels like it's almost like they established a business that would have trickled down to today still, like a big, or if not today, that lasted a very long time. It feels like a mini empire kind of thing. But yeah, look that up and see what you can find. And when you look it up and see if you do find anything, look at photos or depictions that you can find and see if you're like, if you connect with them in any way, like emotionally, or you feel a pull or anything like that. It's kind of cool, So anyway, there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.